The United States and Iran are holding talks in Geneva to address their long-running nuclear disputes. There is little sign of compromise as Washington continues to build a military presence in the region. U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are participating, with talks mediated by Oman alongside Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araqchi. And to chat to us about the importance of such talks, we are joined on the line by Amir Bagherioromi, a South African Iranian independent political analyst and writer focusing on Iran, the Middle East and global power dynamics. Amir, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon to you and all your viewers. Thank you for having me.
Now, what are the key sticking points preventing a compromise between the US and Iran?
For me, the biggest sticking point is not necessarily the technicalities of the negotiations. It's predominantly about trust. I think Iran does not trust the United States to honor an agreement in a long term because the last nuclear deal collapsed after years of negotiation. So from Tehran's perspective, why should they make, concessions again without strong guarantees? On the other side, however, the US does not trust Iran's intention and wants strict limits and verifications before easing sanctions. So both sides want security first, trust first, and neither one of them really want to move first. So there's also a deeper layer, and that's the fact that Iran wants meaningful sanctions to be relieved, and they are looking to improve the economy to a great extent. And the US wants nuclear limits without really wanting to empower Iran regionally. So it's not just about uranium, it's about leverage, sequencing and political survival on both sides.
So what should happen now? Because at some point they have to work together if they do reach some sort of agreement or compromise, or and how significant is Oman's role as mediator, and can Oman influence the outcome?
Right, great question. I mean, what should happen now? I really don't know either. I think, Iran in the past, under the Obama administration, for example, was able to sit at the negotiation table and actually reach a deal. But the current, Trump administration, they have over and over again shown themselves to be extremely unpredictable, and an administration that really operates from a very transactional point of view that only benefits the US and not necessarily the counterpart. Now, to kind of talk about what is Oman's role, Oman's role is important, but it's a quiet role. And that's generally how Oman has been historically. They've both, Oman as a country has been trusted by both Washington and Tehran because it doesn't, want to take a grandstand in these negotiations. What Oman has also shown over and over again during these negotiations are the fact that the information about negotiations that take place don't get leaked into media, which other countries have not been able to fully, seal in their respective countries and negotiation process. And, in these tense negotiations, sometimes what matters most is having a channel that both sides can feel safe using. And Oman definitely plays that role for both countries. We have to keep in mind that Oman's role is not to help prevent escalation. I don't think they can really do that. They don't have the political power to do that. But because they are a trusted party by both sides, they can create a platform for everybody to come together and discuss things without it getting messy or leaking to media.
Now, let's talk about indirect involvement. What does indirect involvement by President Donald Trump mean for the negotiations?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that as well. I don't really know what he means, and I think a lot of people don't either. But I think what he's trying to suggest is that politics is shaping diplomacy and not necessarily the other way around. And this current administration in the US operates differently, from traditional institutional diplomacy. It's more personality driven and more transactional, like I said, and often more unpredictable, Indirect involvement can mean maybe signaling strength publicly while leaving negotiations, negotiation spaces privately. But from an Iran's perspective, I think the key issue is durability. They always operate from a place where they need more time. And if a deal is reached this time around, the main questions for the Iranian side is whether it will survive another political change in Washington. Again, a reminder that Iran had reached the deal during the Obama administration, and Trump administration just did not commit to it and pulled out from it. So for Iran, negotiations is not just about the current administration, but rather whether there will be survival of this deal in future administration, and whether this kind of uncertainty about future of American politics can affect the way in which they negotiate a deal. So they're treating this uncertainty in Tehran with a lot more cautious than the American side is doing.
Now, with the presence, with the U.S. military buildup in the region, which is a major presence, what sort of impact does that have on Iran's negotiating stance?
Yeah, I think, this kind of military buildup is meant to signal deterrence from the American side. It sends a message that, diplomacy is preferred, but force is available. And however, there's a political reality inside Iran, and no Iranian leadership can appear to negotiate because they were intimidated. The Iranians have always shown that they don't negotiate from a place of intimidation, and if they do it this time, that would frame Iran and the current government as domestically weak. So while I think the military pressures may strengthen the US's position strategically, but it can also harden Iran's stance politically, because it limits the space for more liberal and moderate Iranian political leaders, and it only empowers and provides ammunition to the hardliners and conservatives in Iran, because they are doing everything that they are doing in the name of protecting the sovereignty and the borders of Iran. And that's a message that, mass majority of Iranians would be able to subscribe to, despite their dissatisfaction with the current government at a local level.
And how might a deal or failure to reach one affect U.S. relations with allies like Israel and Gulf countries?
Yeah, great question. I mean, look, if the deal is reached, Israel's current leadership may publicly oppose it. They have in the past as well, especially if they believe it leaves Iran with long-term nuclear capabilities. That's how they felt during the Obama's administration and the deal that was reached in that era. But on the other hand, some Gulf countries may quietly welcome the reduced tensions. I think stability helps their economies and long-term planning. It's good for their economies. So if talk fails, the risk increases that Israel might consider acting independently, with the US as a proxy supporting them in the background. And at the same time, the Persian Gulf states may hedge, wanting to perhaps strengthen their ties with the likes of China or Russia in order to be able to have some sort of a power insurance in case US goes against, its promises to the neighboring Persian Gulf countries. So this is only about, I mean, this isn't only about Iran and the US, it's about America's credibility in the region, but in the globe as a whole as well. So it's not at all an easy decision, to reach at the end of the day.
Today we're posing a question, Amir, to our listeners and viewers with regards to the US and Iran holding talks in Geneva. And we have a response. And Hastings Kawete says, America will attack Iran and the topic is useless. What's your take on such, thoughts or ideas from individuals? Because this clearly has been an ongoing issue for many years.
No, you're absolutely right. And the person you're quoting, I mean, I fully understand. And sometimes deep inside, maybe I am aligned to that perspective as well. But I'm a scholar of international relations, so I still like to have a tiny bit of hope in diplomatic, methods of reaching an agreement. But it is true that the current US government has shown that diplomacy is nothing but a theatrical performance for them. We saw that with Venezuela. We are seeing it with Cuba. We saw it in the previous round of negotiations with Iran, when Iran was supposed to meet the US delegation within 24 hours. Then they were attacked by Israel and later on by the US as well. So I also have that suspicion that perhaps other analysts and ordinary people might have, that all of this is nothing but a theatrical show from the US's end. But what Iran is doing, I think, is relatively measured and calculated, because they do have the top diplomats ready for negotiation around the negotiation table. However, they also have all the army generals and the Revolutionary Guards leaders ready in the south of Iran, in the Persian Gulf, in case of escalation, particularly in that region, which Iran has said, they will block off the Strait of Hormuz should any tensions happen. And that's the region where mass majority of the oil in the world, travels through. So Iran is appearing to be doing this a lot more calculated than the US. But again, US government has shown to be unpredictable. Perhaps they're also planning things on their end that can, surprise the Iranian side.
Well, Amir, it's been a pleasure. We'll leave it there for today. We have run out of time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Thank you, and you too. That's Amir Bagherioromi, a South African Iranian independent political analyst and writer focusing on Iran, the Middle East, and global power dynamics.
Africa, it's time.